My next guest has a new book out. It drops today. And I'm sure he's going to get buckets of hate poured on him for this. My friend Ben Shapiro, editor emeritus of Daily Wire, host of his own podcast, and his new book, The Authoritarian Moment, How the Left Weaponized America's Institutions Against Dissent. It's already a bestseller, and it's out today. So if you haven't pre-ordered it, you should get it today. Ben, good to see you. It's been a while. It's been a minute.
It has been a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and I'm happy that you moved to America. You left the U.S. the USS of California, and you are in America now. You moved your whole company to America, also. So I don't know any employer that loves their employees as much as you apparently do, because you took everybody with you. So kudos to that. Very nicely done.
Oh yeah, no, we were very excited, and like I was telling you before, I mean, when we decided to move the entire company from LA to Tennessee, we figured, okay, well, a lot of LA natives here probably will lose 20%, 30% of our workforce. Instead, pretty much everybody was like, yeah, get me out of this hellhole. Yeah. So we just moved everybody with us to Tennessee. My immediate family, we moved down to South Florida because the Jewish population of Tennessee would have been us. So instead, we just went to South Florida, where we are one of many.
So I have to ask you, because when I have had friends that have either moved from LA, we had some friends that left LA and moved to Dallas, and some that came from New York. Did you go through an adjustment period too? Because people are so nice where you are, you didn't know how to react? Because I've had them tell me this, and I'm curious as to what you experienced.
Yeah, everyone's happy here. It's weird. Like, you're walking around and people are smiling, and they're all happy, and they're not yelling at you and giving you frowns for your behavior. And it's like, wow, this is crazy. And also, there's a 0% state tax rate here, and there's not a homeless person shooting heroin into their foot outside my front door. Like, wow, people live like this. This is amazing.
And if they wave at you, you don't duck because you think they're throwing something at you. They're just genuinely waving. That's nice. My friends were saying that too. They were like, we just everyone's so nice and they smile, and we didn't know how to deal with it. And it's like they came from a war-torn country or something. They were so shell-shocked. So your new book, which is out today, The Authoritarian Moment, I mean, obviously great timing too, considering everything that we're dealing with. And we were talking about the mask mandates, but even more so, I wanted to get your take on this kind of brawl that's been happening, not a brawl, but like a disagreement that's been happening on the right as it relates to tech companies, the public square, so to speak, because conservatives, we've always been about protecting conservative liberty, individual or conserving individual liberty. And that goes for even private businesses also. But I do understand the argument that many of our colleagues and friends have made, where they say, well, these companies aren't acting on their own. They're acting as agents of the state. And especially when we see the latest comment from Jen Psaki, or the White House communications director. And I know that this is a subject that's been kind of, the right is kind of divided. But where do you come down on all of this? Because we want to protect public discourse, but at the same time, we respect private businesses. It's a difficult thing for conservatives.
It is. I mean, I'm pretty libertarian-minded about this sort of stuff generally, but I will say that it's been pretty clear that there are state actors who are actively pressuring Facebook into restricting speeches in a way that the state itself really could not if it were doing it directly. So they offer sort of relief from liability via Section 230, and then they say, well, we might take that away from you if you don't start policing misinformation more stringently. And by misinformation, it turns out they just mean stuff that they disagree with. I mean, NPR literally ran a piece last week in which they suggested that the Facebook traffic received by my website, Daily Wire, ought to be reduced. Not because we had said anything false. They say in the piece, there's nothing on the website that's untrue. They say in the piece that we don't lie about who we are, that we're openly conservative. They say we don't engage in conspiracy theories. The problem is that we're engaged in misinformation.
Right.
We're conservative.
Right.
So that is worthy of condemnation. So as long as you have, and NPR is a state, funded piece of the apparatus. So as long as you actually have parts of the government that are trying to do via private companies what they could not do on their own, I think we're in a real danger zone. I think that's pretty easy to fix this, by the way. I think that all you have to do is move petrol provisions.
Yeah. And that NPR went after you as well, because I saw that piece that they did, and they were the fear-mongering Daily Wire. They're spreading misinformation. That's the new choice word, misinformation. Like, they're not spread. I mean, the things that they cited and the accusations that they made against your site. This is no. I mean, you report on what's out there. Just because they dislike it doesn't classify it as misinformation. It does feel like they're trying to criminalize that, though. Like if they determine that something's misinformation, it's like they're trying to bring that Schenck ruling, which everybody always uses and cites that as a free speech thing, which is just horribly misconstrued. But it's like they're trying to try to use it as an example to say, look, this is killing people. Newsom had a quote about it today. This is killing people, so maybe we should regulate their speech. Do you get that idea?
For sure. And you're starting to see it, I think, bleed over into a wide variety of areas. I mean, the story about PayPal now working with the ADL to quash quote-unquote extremist hate speech is obviously very scary. When you have neutral service providers that have decided it's their job to police the kind of speech that you engage in, there are only two possible counters to that. One is that the right just creates its own platforms, right, which could happen, except that they keep using neutral service providers to then destroy the platforms, a la Parliament. Or you're going to end up with pushback in the form of regulation, the other possibility. Neither one of these is good, but you would prefer that these companies go back to providing services in neutral fashion, a la a neutral service provider. But that is going to require, I think, a lot of conservatives to stand up and just say no. And that's really what a lot of the book is about too. Is there's so many of us who basically assume this was college campus stuff. It was never going to come to the real world. And people tend to be pretty conflict and risk averse. Where the conservatives are by nature individualistic and polite, and the left by nature is quite rude. And institutionally minded, and that's a real asymmetry that the left has exploited.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Ben Shapiro, he's joining us now. He's got a new book, The Authoritarian Moment, which is on sale today, and it really gets into all of these different institutions that iconic American institutions, and it seems as though not just business but culture as well. So many things have been really weaponized. And I was thinking the other day, Ben, how there used to be no daylight between whether it was conservatives and law enforcement, conservatives and NFL, conservatives and military, conservatives and NASCAR. But one by one, all of these different areas, the left has gone in, created some kind of controversy. Sometimes the people in some of these different groups, didn't help themselves by creating controversy. But there's just, you have people who don't watch NFL now. I mean, their ratings have dropped. You have people who are less supportive of NASCAR and don't tune into NASCAR because of everything that's, that's happened with the left. What is that? I mean, where do conservatives go now? I mean, but that's the thing. We don't even have water cooler moments as a culture anymore. Where we can come together and all talk about one issue that we have experience with. I think now with the dissolution of all of those areas and with, everybody can go to their own corner online, there's no common area for people to come together and meet and talk. What are your thoughts on that? Because that I find that, I think, perhaps most troubling.
I totally agree. All the neutral spaces, all the places that we used to just hang out together and be Americans together without having to get into our politics, all of those places have been completely destroyed. They're now gone. And what that means is that we're finding our own places where we feel comfortable, but they're increasingly places where we never have to face up to disagreement, places where we never have discussions with anybody else. And the sort of demonization that's occurring right now in American politics is quite astonishing. The other day, I just tweeted out as kind of a thought experiment to people on the left. You want to stop polarization? One way that you can stop polarization is just find somebody who voted not like you in the last election cycle and say that they're a nice human being and that you would give their work a read. Right. Say, this does not seem like a wildly audacious ask, right? And I can do that with dozens of people on the left. Right? People who I talk to, people who I text, people who I'm friendly with, people whose work I totally disagree with but find interesting. A bunch of people on the right immediately resonated to this and started tweeting out the names of people on the left that they disagreed with but would say are nice people. But I couldn't find a person on the left to do it. I could not find anybody on the left. I was just looking through the comments. Was there anybody on the left who responded by saying, here's a list of people on the right who I think are human beings I disagree with but are worthy of faith? For the answer for too many leftists, the answer is no. And if that doesn't get solved, then there's not going to be a future for the country.
Yeah, I agree. We're talking with Ben Shapiro, his new book, The Authoritarian Moment, How the Left Weaponized America's Institutions Against Dissent. I got to ask you about the mask stuff as well. You've been pretty outspoken about this. And also you followed science. And that's the thing. You have one group of scientists and doctors who say one thing, another group that says something else. Who gets to determine whose science we follow? Thankfully, we live in states where I don't think that we have any concern about mask mandates coming back into vogue and our kids having to wear them to go to school. But why is it? I know that people that write for Daily Wire have had their accounts either suppressed or suspended for just so much as talking about or reporting about the different science that's out there. So how do you weigh in on this? Like, whose science do we believe in? Why can't we just all talk about it? Why does somebody have to be suppressed?
So to me, the simple answer on who to trust is who treats science as a process and who treats science as an institution. Okay, science is a process; it's not an institution. So when you see Anthony Fauci say things like, "Well, if you disagree with me, then it's because you just hate the science." Like, well, no, you're not the science. I disagree with you because you flip-flopped on every major issue of this pandemic, from masking to schooling to the effectiveness of vaccines. So yeah, I don't trust you on this sort of stuff. People who are willing to show you their work and explain why they are doing what they're doing are the people who I tend to trust. And I have sort of my own basket of people who I think are at least, within that realm, ranging from Marty McCary at Johns Hopkins University to Scott Gottlieb to the professors Jay Bhattacharya over at Stanford. There are a bunch of people over, in this kind of sphere who present data to back their particular, bona fides on this sort of stuff. But there are a group of people who just are insulted when you ask for the data and get angry when you present the data. So today, when the CDC announced idiotically that the vaccinated should remask in indoor spaces because if they have children, right? That if you're vaccinated and you have children under the age of 12, because your child under 12 can't vaccinate, you should wear a mask inside. And I say that's asinine. That's asinine on every level. First of all, it's asinine for kids to be masking in the first place. The number of kids who have died under the age of 18 in the United States to date is 337, according to the CDC. That's out of a subgroup of 75 million Americans under the age of 18. The number of Americans who have had some sort of breakthrough case of COVID requiring either hospitalization or ending in death is 5,914, according to the CDC. That is out of 161 million Americans who have been vaccinated, which means that so far, if you've been vaccinated, your chances of being hospitalized, and it's much lower if you die, just hospitalized, your chance of being hospitalized if you had the vaccines is currently 1 in 27,223. So based on that chance, and that I might pass it on to a child who is probably more likely to be struck by lightning than to die of COVID at this point, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
Then this is how you're deciding that we ought to mask up? I mean, the answer is clearly no. And this is my problem the whole way here, is that we've been lied to over and over and over, not just in terms of statistics, but which the media do lie with. They'll say things like, wow, look at the case rate in Florida is up 40%. It's like, well, yes, but I don't care about the case rate. I care about the deaths. How many deaths are we experiencing? And you saw it last night. This drove me nuts. In your state, Dana, over in Missouri, we saw Allison Camerata and Victor Blackwell ripping into a mayor outside of St. Louis, right, saying, how dare you not reimpose a mask mandate? And Allison Camerata said, people are dying in St. Louis hospitals. They are dying right now. So I did the simple thing. I looked up how many people have died, 7-day running average of death in St. Louis. There are 1 million people who live in St. Louis County. The average 7-day average of death in St. Louis County is 1. 1 per day. Okay, so that is not people are dying. You need to remask everybody on planet Earth. This is all insane. There's no actual endpoint here. We were told 15 days to slow the spread. Don't overwhelm the hospitals. Fine, we did it. We didn't overwhelm the hospitals. Then we were told, okay, guys, we got to take some precautions. If you're unvaccinated and if you're unhealthy, then mask up when you're in crowded spaces, at least until we get a vaccine. We get the vaccine. Fine. We vaccinate all the old people in the country. Fine. Then it turned into, okay, you need to wait until everybody's had a chance to get the vaccine. We're here. Everybody's had a chance. If you want the vaccine, you can get the vaccine. I've said before, I got it. My wife got it. My parents got it. And it is not my job to protect you now. You've had full opportunity to get it. If you don't want to get it, this is the part that drives me nuts. The people who are unvaccinated are not asking me. They're not asking me to mask up. It's other people who are vaccinated in the scientific community asking me to mask up as a vaccinated person on behalf of somebody who not only is unvaccinated, but
that's how it works.
Right.
The science.
It's all nuts. It's all nuts. This is not connected to data. It is not connected to reality. It is all about exercise of power. And I think it really is about one other thing, and that is that last year the media drew a stark dichotomy between the goods and the evils. The good people, the Andrew Cuomo's of the world, were people who wanted zero COVID. There would never be a case of COVID again. And the evil people were people who said, we're going to have to learn to live with this virus because it's going to be part of life from now on. And you're going to have to take precautions from time to time, but you're going to have to learn how to operate in the real world. Those were people like Ron DeSantis in Florida. Ron DeSantis was evil. Andrew Cuomo was good. And now it's very clear that we are all going to have to live in Ron DeSantis' world. This virus is not going to zero. No reputable
never will. It's a virus. You can never defeat it. We got to get moving here. But Ben, I want to make sure everybody hears the book title and goes out and gets it. The Authoritarian Moment: How the Left Weaponized America's Institutions Against Dissent. Your new book. Congratulations, my friend. And congrats on all your hard work as well. Good to see
Thanks,
you.
Anna. Great to see you.
Of course. Take care. Thanks so much.